itself, like Google Documents, Google Slides, maybe Google Maps. If you could just share that really quick, that would be great. So I can get a hand here. Thank you guys. Now we are all up and running. We can get started here where I'd love to just talk to you a little bit about, as Sarah started already, the definition of a HyperDoc, which she's already reviewed. But I'd love to talk to you a little bit about what it's like as a student to learn from one and sort of the why it's helpful. So with that, I know she shared the slides already and she was introducing you to the Happy Date Place HyperDoc. And when you take a look at this HyperDoc here, there's two of them on here. There's one that is fully packaged in Google Documents and one that's fully packaged in Google Slides. And they're essentially the same lessons with a few tweaks. So the beautiful thing about creating your lessons in this way is to think about all of your students, your teachers that you work with, and the ones that you are able to collaborate with. And now more than ever, collaborating and creating lessons in this way will be helping with teacher sustainability and like putting together lessons that are specific for your school, for your school district, using curriculum that you have. Now, in this Happy Place HyperDoc, I just wanted to talk you through a quick little fun, like what is it like to experience learning from the HyperDoc in this way? And how would you deliver instruction from a HyperDoc, whether you're in the classroom or remotely, since you guys are doing both? How does that sound? Hopefully pretty good to you. So what I'm gonna do is drop the link, the specific link to this Happy Place HyperDoc to you. And you can follow along, or you can just keep your eyes up here on the Zoom call as well. Now imagine you're with your students and you're really thinking about building community and connectedness at the beginning of the school year. And you want them to get to know each other a little bit, and you're thinking about one of those first lessons that you're going to do with them. That's why I really like this particular HyperDoc. You'll see that at the top, it has a video to watch. It says file, make a copy. Now you may be using Google Classroom, so they may not have to make a copy. You can push it out in Classroom. But what I would do in order to teach from this HyperDoc is invite students to join me first in watching the video, and that would actually still be a shared experience. It can be a shared experience through Zoom or in the classroom. So I'm going to invite you to watch this video with me and think of yourself as a student, just a couple of minutes long, and then we'll go to the next steps on how we could teach from this HyperDoc. Here we go.
Sometimes in life, every now and again, you need to go to a place and think. I like to call this my happy place. My happy place is the Natural History Museum in London. It's this big, beautiful building filled with fossils, animals, dinosaurs, just a whole heap of information. I come here every now and again when I have a lot on my mind, and it always seems to clear my head. For me, the museum puts a lot of things into perspective. The place is filled with millions of years of artifacts, and that alone makes pretty much all of my issues insignificant. I've been on this planet 21 years, but the world's been going on for millions, so is my issue really that important in the grand scheme of things? And usually I find the answer is no, and I stop worrying about it all, and it opens my eyes and I look at the beauty of where I am, and I kind of just sit for a while and absorb it all.
A song don't say it, touch it or replay it, it only happens once. So long till last night, every time's the first time I'm up to have some fun. A cauldron of potions, drops of the oceans couldn't solve this one. As luck would have it, I'm on the planet, so it seems not you.
So I hope you enjoyed that. That was my happy place. And the question I have for you is, what is your happy place? Where is a place you go when you need to just get away, escape, and think about things? Let me know in the comments down below.
Okay, so we're going to stop right there. There's just something about using a powerful video to launch into a lesson and connect with students. And in this video, I really like that it's pretty open-ended. You're trying to build inclusion in your classroom and get to know students. And so this happy place could be like the Natural History Museum, or it can be anywhere that in your room, in your house, in your neighborhood, at a park, you know, really thinking about just helping students to connect around a place. And so one of the other fun parts of this lesson is to give students some time to now jot down some writing about that. You would ask them to think about, what is your happy place? And if you want to go ahead and go to File and make a copy of this document, you can do that yourself right now. And you'll notice that the HyperDoc has two things built into it: the video, and then also this white space for students to start drafting. So the next part of the lesson would be to sit and come together and draft and think about what your happy place is, write a couple sentences about it, and you would just give them some time to do that. In my classroom, I might turn on some music in the background, even on Zoom or in the classroom, as they're generating ideas and getting them to start brainstorming. This could also be like a turn and talk or something like that. Now here's where a HyperDoc kind of becomes a HyperDoc, and that is when you move into the apply section. What are we going to do with some of the work that we've done? And we're always thinking about how to build in critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity into our apply, and connectedness. So for the apply on this HyperDoc, you'll notice a couple of things. It says mark your place. So you're going to be invited to get onto a Google map in order to do this work. And instead of giving a tutorial on how to use it, I have embedded one, which is one of the benefits of designing in this way. You're thinking of all the resources that you can pull together and share with students in that way. So they could refer to it if they needed it, or some may just be ready to go. Now, when I click on my happy place, sometimes when I'm teaching from a HyperDoc, I might observe that other people have already written on there, and voila, my theory is right there. Do you guys notice that there's several teachers who started to put their happy places on the map? This is another beautiful thing about the HyperDoc, because it's self-paced and guided. Some kids are ready to just hop in and click away and get on that map and start telling you about it. And then they'll become your experts in how they did that. And then some kids are going to be right with you the whole time. And some are going to need to go back and spend more time drafting, or then maybe they want to go back and watch the video again. So the differentiation that is built in, when you package it all in one place, all the parts for the learning objective, really helps the kids learn about themselves as a learner, build their own agency as well. So now I have everyone on this map, and I had already pre-populated my example of my happy place out here in California. It's called Avila Beach, California, and this is where I go with my family. Now you'll notice that when I put this on the map, I was able to do a couple of things: write a couple sentences, which they could transfer their writing there if they wanted to. You can also have students add pictures. Now, the first couple pictures are pictures from the internet, you know, that like Google search images, if I was more comfortable with that. But some kids might want to put personal pictures. So there's my gang. That's my gang hanging at Avila Beach. And you'll notice I actually put a couple over the years because this little guy is much older in this picture. So, but somewhere that we've gone over the years. So just a really nice way to connect with kids and put all of this together. Now, let me ask you this. How many of you want to also start clicking on other people's happy places, right? Once you get there, I'm going to start learning about Anna. And Anna, thank you so much for putting your name there, first of all, because now I can tell who shared this information with me. And thank you for sharing all about Colorado. And now I'm going to get to know Anna a little bit through this happy place point that she put on the map. So the other part of your HyperDoc, when you're thinking of the pedagogy of designing and delivering, is after the apply, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to build in time to share, look at each other's work and reflect and create a classroom environment that is in this continuous environment of learning and creating and giving each other feedback and having conversations. So the pedagogy kind of builds on itself. So it starts with that exploration through a video or through other multimedia, the explanation of what you want them to learn, and then the apply that is collaborative and creative and can offer opportunities for sharing. So how many of you have probably added to the map, but you may or may not see it on my screen right now? And I hope you are in another tab adding to the map. One of the other tricks is to just teach students to quickly refresh, and there might be more added to the map. So in the time that I've been talking, we've had more students add, and I can keep teaching from this map and keep going back to showing different things. For example, maybe I noticed that there's 20 kids in my class and I've only heard from 10. So I'm going to let those 10 keep designing, but I'm going to show you how to go in now and add to the map. And so I already did Avila Beach, but I'll show you the town we live in. It's called Pleasanton, California, which is another happy place for me. So I would go ahead and search the place first. And then when you have this view right here, students, you're just going to go ahead and add it to the map. And that's the starting point. You just put the pin on the map when it went from green to red. But you'll notice that there's more information that I can do. And this little edit pencil is there's an opportunity to click on that and edit and revise. Now, here's something I want you to think about when you're designing your lessons for the first weeks of school. We can design lessons that are about digital citizenship, and we can model lessons like this that integrate digital citizenship. Because students, what I really, really want you to think about is how can you design your pin and then respect the space of everyone else in this digital world as we're building community, and we're going to be having conversations in this way. So the first thing you want to do is put your name right after your place, and then you can draft a few sentences here. There's a place to do that, and has an actual link to the city of Pleasanton. And if you want to get more detailed, you can add image or video just by clicking on the little camera. And you can upload pictures from your device, from an image URL, from your personal photos in Google Drive, and Google Photos, or from Drive, or maybe you just want to find a video on that place. For example, Pleasanton, California probably has a video on YouTube that tells you about the city. So I could model how to do that. Oh, here's one, pros and cons of living in Pleasanton. So there's just some strategies of teaching that. And then once you've added one and you want to add another one, I would just show them how to click that little plus button or the garbage can and save your work. Another thing that I'm noticing is that some people have been able to change their pins here. And if you wanted to change your pin from the red drop, then you would just go ahead and click on the paint bucket, and you can pick other icons. There's more icons here. It just depends on what you want to have on your map. So there are all these different ways of teaching with this. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about is we started here with one document, and that would be like the entire lesson. What do you think are the benefits from a student's point of view to seeing all of this from start to finish? How might this help them organize their digital world when they're learning in class and at home? And this is not the same as having an agenda, like a digital agenda that says, hey, we're going to meet on Zoom at this time and you're going to do reading on this website at this time. This has like a specific teaching point. So when we go back to these two examples that are here on the slides, I kind of did a think aloud and walked you through the happy place one on a Google document. But this is the beauty of that collaboration, and we call it the remix as well. I took that HyperDoc and remixed it and put it on slides because I like to see things in slides sometimes, and that could be your preference. A lot of the content is the same, but it's a little different, and that's because teaching is so personal, and you want to design these HyperDocs for the students in your class, and you can put your own personal thing onto your lesson. So the reason I like to see this lesson in slides is I sometimes just like to have an embedded video where they can watch it right there. But you know what I don't have? I don't have on this one the draft piece to write out, right? So maybe I needed to add that. And what I did different here is instead of having them just go onto the map, slide 3 introduces students to a different tool. And that was my personal preference where I was with my class. Adobe Spark has free creation tools that students can use where they can create and show their learning in multiple ways. And I was thinking, if I got them to feel more comfortable with these tools, then when I want to use more content, when I want to move into more content-driven material, not just connecting-driven materials, they'll be more comfortable with these tools. So you might offer that they create an Adobe Spark post. And what that simply is an digital post that students can design, but they feel like graphic designers when they use Adobe Spark. They've got different templates, and this was my my sample for students. What's your happy place? You can make a post and just tell me simply about that post. Another strategy is depending on your time, maybe you want students to design a full video. And the video is like a quick introduction to their happy place. Well, I know as a teacher that Adobe Spark has short templates for designing videos, and I was able to put this like 1-minute video together,
California is
actually describing the place. So again, something personal to me that could be a low cognitive load at the beginning of the year for building community and learning the tools. But as the year goes on, when I want them to create a video for a grade or something, they've had some practice doing that. And then the third example is perhaps you wanted to go deeper in learning and invite students to design an entire Spark page. And these are 3 different mediums of showing what you know. And this is just a personal preference. Now, this is all reimagining. This is an Adobe Spark page where I wrote paragraphs and included pictures. You can see this would be a more long-term project with your students. But all of this is reimagining the same lesson. You could do it how we did, where it's a quick draft, add some pictures, or you could go deeper depending on how you want and how much time you have in your class. And that's the designer in you deciding that. The other part to this slide HyperDoc is I still built in the share. So after they publish in one of those, they come back to the map and they share. So there's just many ways of reimagining these lessons to work for you, depending on what you need with your students. And the power of that collaboration within a team is so important. So we've talked a lot about what they are, and I'm hoping you're having a deeper understanding of what they truly are. No, there's not a cost to Adobe Spark. That's a free tool, and your students can use Google single sign-on, and they could use any one of those features that I shared with you. So thank you so much for asking that question in the chat. If you have more, please put them in the chat. So what's different about this besides being all digital? It's more than just packaging. It's also shift in pedagogy. And you'll hear us talk about this, this cycle of learning: explore, explain, apply. Instead of starting with, this is exactly what I need you to know, HyperDocs start with, let me give you some time to explore the content. When students have that, the devices in their hands, then we have an opportunity to give them the resources before we teach them anything. And so as a designer, you'll think about, what would I do if I needed to learn a new topic? Well, what resources are best for me that I would want to share? So it could be articles, it could be social media posts, it could be videos, it could be a game you find online. And that's the first part of packaging your HyperDoc, finding the most relevant and curated information and giving it to students. Now let's think about delivering this, just this explore part. It can be synchronous or asynchronous. Really, it just depends on your weekly agenda and your time with students. If it's asynchronous, you might give students a HyperDoc and say, on Monday for class, I want you to take a look at some of these links and jot down what you're thinking. What are you wondering about? What are you curious about? What new learning are you learning? It builds background knowledge so that everyone comes in with multiple perspectives on that topic. Or you could facilitate it synchronously if it's a little bit more fine-tuned in the way that I just modeled for that other lesson. On Tuesday, we're going to come together and we are going to talk more about this topic, and I'm going to be able to have collected your thinking from your exploration, and now I know what my teaching point is. My teaching point is this, because everyone watched or looked at the same resources, but I noticed some kids didn't picked up on this one idea, and I want everybody to pick up on that. So you drive your instruction for the explain based on that formative assessment that you get after the exploration piece. And then the other piece that really makes a HyperDoc is the apply, and thinking about how will students show their learning in multiple ways, especially now that we are fully remote, at least where we live, or in a hybrid model. A lot of people have been thinking and reimagining assessment. And so when you are asked to show your learning in a multiple of ways using technology, the assessment is in that deeper level of understanding that you show in your apply. And so it helps us really think about giving them that platform to be creative, but also to use that to decide whether they know your content or not, based on rubrics or checklists or however you administer assessments. So why HyperDocs at this point? One of the things that we, Sarah and Lisa and myself, have discovered as longtime educators, and I'm guessing that a lot of you are also longtime educators here with me, because once we're in it, we're lifers, right? We're here for being an educator. And I just think about when I started my career in 1999, there were there was so much for me to learn. It's a journey, right? But over the years, there's different initiatives that are introduced and ways of thinking about stuff. But as a classroom teacher, what we're doing is we're always collectively thinking about that and integrating that into our lesson design. So this is our manifesto, what I'm showing you here on the screen. This manifesto is just sort of capturing the many specific words that have been introduced to us in staff meetings or as being a relevant educator, like things we need to consider within our lesson design. But rather than compartmentalizing them into all kinds of little parts of our lesson, how do we integrate them? Because we know in our creative minds, we understand what they are. We integrate those into our lesson. So the HyperDoc, when you go sit down to design it, is a place to do that, to bring out that inner creativity that you know as a designer yourself. So we have all of this on here. We added synchronous and asynchronous because remote learning was our newest thing that was introduced to all of us last March. Never before did we realize we were all going to be going remotely. But again, it's just another skill to add in. When we designed HyperDocs in 2013 and we wrote the book, we talked about how this really can work for blended learning, which is something you'll probably be doing in your classroom with hybrid space, but also distance learning. So if you have to go and shift, there's this shift that everybody's kind of wondering, what are we going to do if we have to go back fully remote? If you understand and start designing with HyperDocs, you and your students can easily shift back and forth between the blended learning model in your classroom and also the fully distance or remote learning model if needed. Another benefit to it is that you can truly find ways to reach all your learners. There's a lot of ways to build in accessibility that seamlessly builds in concepts that are aligned with universal design for learning onto your HyperDoc, and so that your students feel a part of having the same message, but some students, or maybe all, are using accessibility tools to have outreach in their lesson. And also, let's be real, that an understanding that our classrooms are, it's not only about us. There's days when you might need a substitute, or you might have specialists that you work with and you collaborate with, administrators, parents are our partners right now in teaching. If they have your HyperDoc and they can see your thinking in one place, now you've really connected the learning for everyone, student, parent, administrator, specialist, teacher, and everyone knows the goal. Where are we headed based on how you design it? So as we kind of talked about too, the explore, explain, apply, and you'll find when you dive into some of our resources, our HyperDoc template has more than just those three parts. Since this is an introduction, I wanted you to understand that these are sort of the main things, but we have 7 steps that we've added in our template. But let's just take a moment and picture your Google Classroom or emails that you sent home to invite students to do work. Now, if you hadn't, if we're doing this work, it might look as separate things in your Google Classroom. If I were to go back to this happy place and not package it on a HyperDoc, I might just take that video and upload it to Google Classroom and say, watch this video. And then the next day say, okay, take out a Google Doc and write here. And then the third day say, put it on a map. For kids, that organization of having it in all the different places can be really super challenging. And also for parents who are helping us right now. So when you go to sit down and design, one of the benefits is to package it all up into that one place for the learning objective. And that way they can keep going back and, like I said, going back and checking or moving ahead when needed. And this is a way to also document the learning for students. If I had pushed this lesson out to all of my students and gave them each a copy, I now can follow along with their writing and offer feedback and keep giving them and monitor their progress before we get to the map. And I might say, we're going to spend more time on this writing piece. So you can build all of that in. And if they say, I don't understand, what do you mean, what's my happy place? In the comments, the feedback can say, check out the video again. Remember the video we watched in class? Well, maybe they don't remember it. They don't remember every lesson we give them, right? So we could go back and check it out. So having it right there to monitor progress is another added benefit. So we've kind of talked about what they are and why HyperDoc, okay? Let's talk a little bit about how to. There's many ways you could totally start from scratch. And in the chat, some of you said you're pretty familiar with Google Apps. So maybe having a blank canvas on a doc or a slide is not intimidating for you. And you could just start imagining and building your HyperDoc from scratch. And one way of doing that is just thinking about that pedagogy of explore, explain, apply, and building it that way. Another way to do this, just to save time, like to get started, since we're all just getting going, is to find one that you like that someone's already made. You might find that you like it based on the design, just merely the aesthetics, and not the content. And you might take the wording out and put your own wording in. You also might find that you like a topic, but you want to reimagine the design. It can go both ways. But this concept of just filing and making a copy and sharing with each other really helps to lighten the load for all of us learning how to teach remotely, and also just share awesome lessons. And when you create one that you're proud about, just sharing that with your colleagues. If your students experienced a good lesson, it feels so good to have other students experience a positive lesson as well, even if they're not in your class. So let's talk about why remix a little bit. It starts with, it saves you time. You can customize this now for your learner. When you're not having to build from scratch, you might spend more time on how to personalize this for my learners and customize it. You might want to go ahead and get started with HyperDocs, or I can't even see my screen here. Actually, this is really funny. Hold on 1 second. All of that is there. New design inspiration, or if you're new. Okay, so let me show you an example of a content-based HyperDoc. This one is for math. And I don't think I know what grade you all teach. If you could drop it in the chat, tell me what grade you teach. That would be great, or what subject you teach. So this was originally designed for a 7th grade resource class. And in the class, students are accessing content in our adopted curriculum textbook. That is, then the teacher is adapting it to make it accessible to her students. And the lesson is proportional reasoning. This was our original lesson. And full disclosure here, when the teacher and I sat down to teach this lesson, we were both, okay, we got first, fourth, second. This is a little bit older, but that's okay. I'll come back to, I have some younger ones for you guys for sure too. This can work from like 3rd to 8th probably, or higher. But here's the thing. Sometimes you have a lesson that is really challenging to teach. Or if you've been in the classroom a long time, like I'm guessing a lot of you have that lesson every year that you have to teach over and over and over again because we just can't get it to stick. So sometimes that's why you create a HyperDoc, to create that sticky learning lesson that can help them remember it. And that's what this one was. It was proportional reasoning and how are we going to make this tangible for the students. So this design is different. It starts with a shared video that we all watch, but this is not a typical math video. This is a video that shows proportional reasoning in a bakery and how this baker uses that in her everyday baking. So the students are starting to wrap their heads around the concept of proportions because she's showing how that works in her baking. After they watched the video together, they went and played this game together where you can get immediate feedback. And there's a ton of resources out there, but it's about finding the ones that work best for your students. So these two resources were the Explore. That's it on this HyperDoc. We're gonna watch this video together and then you're gonna play around with proportional reasoning. And then we move into the direct instruction. And this is a lesson that the teacher taught herself and records it. But also you could put that video on your HyperDoc if you record yourself teaching, or you can find another teacher directly in teaching the lesson. And if you watch this video, it shows exactly how 3 different ways to solve for proportional reasoning in math. And it was specific to this lesson. So this is the Explore and the Explain, just these top 3 rows. Now it's time for the Apply. Now, typically in math, you're going to see worksheets, 10 to 15 problems each day to practice. And we usually give those to students and say practice, and then we just correct it for them. So we wanted to reimagine the Apply for this one because it really needs to stick. And we don't do this every day, just on the days for these important lessons. And what we did is invited students to work collaboratively. There's 4 problems on here, and they were put into groups of 3. And the task was to choose one of the 4 problems and solve it with your team. And when you go to solve it, you can use one of these tools: Educreation, Slides, or Flipgrid. This is, again, getting them to show what they know and to reimagine how to use these tools and get them to think critically. So students went through this process, and then you'll notice that they turned in their work right here into a Google form. Everybody just submitted the form and the link to their work. Now you could stop right there, but if you do, then only the teacher sees the work, and now I have a bunch of links to look at to grade. It's the same as having a stack of papers in my classroom. So instead, this is a really important step in HyperDocs, and that is building in that share. And you kind of saw that with the Happy Place HyperDoc too. I took the form and the spreadsheet that is attached to a form and shared it back with the students and put it on the HyperDoc. So rather than just turning it into me for the teacher to give you feedback, you're going to review responses from other groups and give feedback because I gave you everyone's work to look at. Now let's talk a little bit about what happened with this. I can see all their work. I can see what tools they chose and which problem they solved. As a student, I might click on like another group's work to see if we got the same answer. Let's say I did problem B and I want to see if I got it right. I'm going to hop in somebody else's to see if we got the same answer. I have seen in a training where they didn't get the right answer and then they went back, changed it and said, oh, now I see what I did wrong. That is what happens when the learning is really sticky, when they saw each other's work. And rather than doing rotely 10 to 15 problems, they're doing less problems, but actually internalizing the concept. So this is sort of reimagining that apply. Now, this was the original HyperDoc, but other people have seen this HyperDoc and thought, oh, I think I can remix this. I think I can do this. I like the design. I like the flow. It's a one pager. So this one, another teacher made and took the content out and just put in multiplication word problems. So she put her content in this design. That takes a little less. We talked about why remix, the less time. She liked the color, she liked the font. She didn't have to think about those things, and has the Wonder Play review and then practice. So this is another version of the same HyperDoc based on the design. And if you explore this slide further, you'll see that there's multiple versions. This one isn't even a math HyperDoc. This is a history HyperDoc, remixed and reimagined in that way. So you can see the power of creating them and getting them out there and sharing them with your colleagues, because it could even help a colleague in another grade level, or it could just help a colleague on your team. And this one even has some different tools down here, like they used a Padlet instead. So that's one example of really repackaging and remixing. Here's another one. Maybe you've kind of been designing HyperDocs for your classroom, but now you have to reimagine them for the hybrid classroom. And so you're going to have to rethink your pedagogy a little bit on how to deliver. So this original one is a really fun one. Elementary would really love it, like first, second. It's got this video that you watch, Adventures of a Cardboard Box. And then I love this one because it invites students to really create and also get off tech for the apply. So I encourage you to take a look at these two lessons. Now this one started with just the resource and then the task. But then when it was reimagined for remote learning, some other things were added. It added a digital read aloud, because maybe that's just not feasible in the schedule to do the read aloud with your students. So you can link up a digital read aloud for them to watch, and they can go from there. So it starts with watch this video. It's Adventures of a Cardboard Box. For our littler learners, you'll notice this one has it's embedded in ViewPure, and ViewPure is a website that can take your YouTube videos and take all the parts around YouTube off, so you're just focusing on watching that video. And then it moves into these other parts of the lesson. What was the message? Now watch this right here. This is the teaching point. And you'll notice she has them write in their writer's notebooks. Pick one thing from your list and write about it long. This is something we have to really consider as teachers right now. Are we only asking them to write digitally, or are we asking them to write with paper too? How to build that blend in. You can put that blend into your HyperDocs. And then it comes up with the task. And I love this task. Find some unused cardboard of any size and invent a new or use for it. So I've shown you ways to apply with tools like Adobe Spark and Flipgrid and slides, but sometimes you want kids to show their learning with the content and materials in their homes. And you can do both in your HyperDoc. And you as the designer know where you're going with your students. So you can explore those examples. This is a great example of explore, explain, apply, also of remixing, taking a look at that. And then this is a lesson that I would invite you to check it out, because you could make a copy of that and share that with students and remix it for your littlest learners. But let's get to the good stuff first. Well, this is all good stuff, I think. Let me give you a couple tips before you get started. First of all, when you're thinking about your HyperDocs, less is more. Maybe start small with like the connector one. You have to learn how to deliver instruction from it, and your students have to learn how to learn from it. So just like building classroom routines and norms, you're going to want to take your time to do that. The other thing that I recommend you to do is find one that inspires you, that maybe you want to try out. Think about how students need to be supported. Use the technology to support your variable learners. And just make it fun, like talk to your students and laugh. You could put little like memes or GIFs on there. I know you guys are heading to other ones. Thank you so much. I do want you to know that we have this space for you to go find a bunch. And in the elementary HyperDocs, there's some really great ones for kindergarten and first grade. And I saw that a lot of you teach that. So I encourage you to explore those and make a copy of those. And you can learn more online with us at our academy at hyperdocs.co, or you can learn more just by checking out our book or our study guide. We have built a lot of classes, online courses for adult learners to learn all those little tips and tricks and strategies for this. And then if you are someone who likes to do social media, we have a really incredible community built around HyperDoc designers. And if you're on Twitter or Facebook, you could hop on any and one of the platforms and ask for a HyperDoc. And our community is so thoughtful. They're always sharing back or problem solving or offering to collaborate with designers. So if that's your learning style, I encourage you to check out our professional learning networks. Other than that, if you have any questions or you want to talk to me with some questions, I am happy to hang on for a little bit because I know I was a little late getting on. Thank you so much for your time. And please reach out if you guys have questions.